Welcome to Sam's Russian Adventures. Today I'm going to take a walk around this little private housing area that I found in the town of Vladimir where I live and talk about 5 things that I've gotten used to living in Russia. I like this house here. I like the artwork that's gone into it, and look at that lantern, right? That's nice, isn't it? It's so fascinating how Russian people decorate their houses and the outsides. I've got a magic carpet for sale if anyone wants it. Fancy living in one of these apartments up here? What do you think? Check out these 2 houses over here. This one's very nice, isn't it? And we've got someone playing for the NBA, it says there, look. I wonder if I could touch this wire or not. What do you think? And then behind the wire we've got a pink house. A pink house! I wonder who lives there. And so this street here, behind these houses, we've got the railway line, we've got the river, and then we've just got land, I guess, fields. I can hear a train going past. Can you hear it? To be fair, it's not that loud when a train goes past. Ultra modern for you there. So the first thing that I've gotten used to living in Russia is in summer, for a couple of weeks, they turn off the hot water. So in Russia, if you live in an apartment block that has the central water system connected to the town water supply, right? And it doesn't have its own separate boiler unit, then what's going to happen is they turn off the hot water to do maintenance. And so for a couple of weeks, there's going to be no hot water in your house, which can be pretty crazy if the weather's not very good. Now, if the weather's really amazing, then you're not really going to care about taking cold showers. And if you're in a new apartment building, they're probably going to have a boiler, or the chances are you might have your own electric boiler in your house. But if you're in one of these old panel houses, the Khrushchevki or the Brezhnevki, or any of these houses built between kind of like the 50s and the end of the Soviet Union, the chances are you're not going to have any hot water for a couple of weeks. And I've known gyms to turn off the hot water as well, right? They didn't even have a boiler system in the gym that I used to go to, and for 2 weeks we had no hot water. It's a strange looking colour choice or colour theme that they've chosen, right? So I actually had a situation that's related to the water being turned off. In the year, I think it was 2010, we had forest fires in Russia because the summer was so hot. Every day it was 30-35 degrees, and there was loads of houses being burnt down. It was a pretty crazy time. But we didn't have any hot water in our house for like a month. And I was taking cold showers. I was literally waking up because it was boiling hot and having cold showers out of choice. And then I started having problems with my chest, and I was like, what's going on here? it turned out that I was hospitalized for 2 weeks with a lung infection. Yeah, it wasn't very good. But now I've adapted to the hot water being turned off. Well, in fact, it doesn't really bother me now because I live in a private house. And so, yeah. But if you live in an apartment building, a Soviet apartment building, then beware that the water, the hot water, might just get turned off for a couple of weeks. So be prepared. I love this fence. How cool is the fence? People pay loads of money for fences like this to look, what's the word, kind of loft style, where here, yeah, it's free, right? And here we've come to the end of the line. We've got a big crane that looks like it's out of use. And yeah, a nice big house next to it. Nothing quite beats the fresh smell of poo being pumped out of the drains and into the truck. So point number 2 is a controversial one. Look, if you live in another country that's not your own, then you're going to meet other foreigners that have moved to that country like you. And the thing is, there's always some level of escapism when people leave the country that they're from and move to another one. Often I get people saying to me that, Sam, you only moved to Russia because you didn't succeed in your own country, so you went to another one. And I think there's some level of truth in this, that a lot of the people that move to Russia, they almost don't want to be, I don't know, don't want to know anyone else. It's almost like they've moved to another country so they can get away from everyone. I've met a lot of people that don't want to interact with anyone at all, and they just want to keep to themselves. But of course they've come to a new country, and so they've got to interact in some way because they've got to learn how to do things. I often find that people, when they come to Russia, they'll contact me, they'll ask me loads of information, how to do this, how to do that, and they'll ask me to meet lots of times and I'll help them to do stuff. And so they'll be very friendly to start with, but then after a year, 2 years go by, when they kind of like find their feet, I'll perhaps ask them, you know, do you want to meet? They were like, no. And I realize at that point that they don't really ever want to meet people. They just needed the information. And it's a weird one like that. So a lot of foreigners are borderline psychopaths or sociopaths. They don't really like people, they don't want to interact with people. And what they often do is find a wife as quick as possible, because the wife will allow them to not have to interact with other people. If you come to Russia, there's a huge learning curve. There's a new language. There's so much stuff that you can't do on your own. And so the easiest thing to do is to find a wife who's going to be like your helper. When you come to Russia, it's really easy to meet women who have studied English. When I first came here, the first few women that I met would be the women who studied English at university and work in perhaps the hospitality industry, and they'll be really keen to meet a foreigner. And so what a lot of foreigners do when they come to Russia is they meet a woman who studied English and is really keen to meet a foreigner, and they get married as quick as possible. So what this allows them to do is not to have to learn about the new country, not to have to learn the rules, to have to go and do things, to have to go and learn the language, any of that. It's like a shortcut. They get married to a woman who's just so happy that she's with a foreigner because that's what she studied, right? She perhaps dreamed of maybe studying English and moving out of Russia, but she ended up staying in Russia and she's met a foreigner. So it's great for her, that's what she wanted. And at the same time, it's great for him because he just gets this ready-made helper that does everything for him. I know so many people that are like this. There was one guy that came over, he got married after 3 months. The wife actually divorced him, and then a month later he got married again. And it's almost like I don't get it, right? I understand that these people get to think, well, hang on a second, I've got this helper that does everything for me and I don't have to do anything ever again. But at the same time, all you're doing is kind of like lying to yourself that you've got a love of your life, right, when you haven't. I was speaking to one guy who had permanent residency in Russia, and I said to him, oh, what residency have you got here? He was like, oh, I don't know what it is, the wife did it for me, it's a blue book. And I just thought, wow, that's your level of knowledge of the country you've lived in for the last 15 years. A blue book. The person had no idea about all the stress you have to go through and all the processes that people have to go through to obtain that level of residency, especially back in the day when it was. I just thought, wow, there's so many people like this here that are completely clueless. They've just come, found a wife, got married as quick as possible. She respects him because he's a foreigner, he has a reasonable level of income, he's perhaps looked at as being clever, as being interesting because it's what the person learned about, and he's gained a helper that allows him to not have to do anything himself. New thing is getting built all the time in Russia. We've got a little path here. Where is this path going to take us, or is it not going to take us anywhere and I'm going to have to come back and do a U-turn? Look at the amount of junk on this plot of land, just crazy amounts of junk. Russians don't want to throw stuff away. Is it going to be a dead end, a muddy dead end? Best fence award definitely goes to this house here. They've put everything possible to border the look at that. That is crazy, right? How many different types of piece of material have we got there? The next thing is that quite often I feel that people are trying to make a cut, people are trying to make a percent from me. Modern Russians have a very capitalist mindset, and so they're looking for ways to always make money. And so you'll often, especially with, not with friends, but with acquaintances, you'll have a chat with somebody and they'll be like, you know, how's life going, right? You're standing, I don't know, somewhere in the centre, you see someone you haven't seen for ages, and they'll ask you about life, and you'll say fine, and they'll say, you know, well, what are you up to lately? And you'll maybe say, oh, I'm looking for a new apartment, and they'll be like, oh, I know someone that can help you. Definitely, he can help you 100%. Then the next day he'll call you, yeah, I've got a guy, he's got all the apartments lined up for you. Or, you know, if it's, I don't know, maybe getting a boiler put in your house, right? You'll say, yeah, I'm just getting the boiler done. Or you're getting the boiler done, have you got someone to do it for you? Yeah, I know a guy, right? And the next day we're calling me, yeah, this guy really wants to meet you, really wants to help you. You know, he's got lots of different boilers that he can put, and you think, why are you so keen? Why are you overly keen to help me? This house is massive. So from the moment that you met that person you're an acquaintance with, and you told him about your need to find an apartment or to purchase a boiler, he went away and found somebody that he knows that works with people looking for apartments, or a real estate agent, or somebody who is helping to fit boilers. And basically he just called them and said, look, how much does it cost for a new boiler? 10 grand, right? Okay, if I bring you a client, how much money can you give me? And you'll say, I'll give you like 5% off. Okay, and then he'll call me and say, right, Sam, I found a guy who does boilers for you. You've definitely got to work with him. And he'll charge me a little bit on top. And this is what Russian people do. Now, I think this is wrong. What do you think? Do you think it's just people being resourceful, people looking for ways to make extra bits of money? I don't really like it. And you can definitely feel it when someone keeps calling you and they're like, Sam, you know, when the boiler guy's ready, he's ready to come and put the boiler in for you. You know, when are you going to be free? And you think, why do you care so much? And you realize why they care so much, because they're going to make money from you. This house here has got a nice well, I don't know if it's this house, maybe it's just an empty plot of land that they've built a little playground on. Now you might think that this is wrong, right? Why should somebody try and make money from somebody else when it's not their profession? But at the same time, if you look, almost every single YouTuber that's in Russia right now is trying to help people to come to Russia, and then saying, well, we can help you to come to Russia, but you've got to use these lawyers. Look at the bell. I think one of the worst things about all the foreign YouTubers who are making loads of videos about why it's great to come to Russia and here's the lawyer that you can use, not telling people that they're on a commission for recommending the lawyers, just telling everyone, if you want to come to Russia, definitely use a lawyer, I can help you, this lawyer's the best, blah blah blah. I think the worst thing is the majority of the people didn't use the lawyers themselves. A lot of the people haven't even got residency, and yet they're telling other people how they can get residency and they need to use a lawyer, and obviously they're making money from it. So just be careful. Everyone's trying to make money from you. Interesting house. The next thing that you'll find very strange if you're moving to Russia from the US, the UK or Canada, and probably anywhere in Europe, is that kids walk to school on their own. It's so strange. I think for me, it's kind of normal. You don't really think about it anymore. But if you're coming from a country where this doesn't happen, it will be very, very, very strange for you. Wow, we've got half a truck on top of a garage. How did it even get up there? Often I'll be just walking down like a really main road in winter when it's -15 outside, and there'll be a kid that's really small. And I think, what's this kid doing? Yeah, just walking to school or back again. Parents realise that it's safe. They don't have that whole fear that we have in the West. I don't know if it's good or bad. When I was a kid, I used to walk to school, right? Didn't really think anything of it. I don't know if, you know, kidnappers or, you know, people that would potentially take your kid are more, what's the word? I don't know if when we were younger, perhaps we were just more naive and didn't realise the risk, and therefore kids walk to school on their own, or, you know, whether it's just not as scary as we're taught. I guess because of the films and all that kind of stuff, we know how horrible it can be if a kid is kidnapped. But I don't know. What do you think? Should kids be allowed to walk to school on their own? Or do you think nowadays they should be accompanied by an adult? And so the final thing that I've got used to living in Russia is the excessive use of plastics in Russian supermarkets. It seems all around the world, in the Western world, in the UK, definitely when I go back to the UK, the supermarkets are trying to prevent you from using plastic bags. I know in some supermarkets you can't even get plastic bags. You can buy a bag for life that they'll replace, and that's just like a material, you know, like a made from something, not from plastic anyway. But if you go to a Russian supermarket, if you buy some cherries or some sort of fruits, they'll put them in a bag, and then they'll put another bag at the checkout around that bag to make sure that the bag doesn't break. And if you buy yogurts at the checkout, they'll put those yogurts into a little kind of freezer bag, and then into the bag. If you buy anything that's like, I don't know, perhaps like chemicals, you know, like cleaning like stuff, right? If it's toilet cleaner or something, they'll put that toilet cleaner into a bag and then put that bag into the bag. And it's incredible the amount of plastic bags they give you. But I think the biggest one is when you get a delivery from the supermarket, when they give you bottled water, which comes in like a 5-litre bottle with a handle on it, they'll put those bottles into a bag as well. And it's really weird. It's like there's a handle to carry the bottle of water, right? Why do you need to put a plastic bag around it as well? Now I understand from the supermarket's point of view, from the delivery company's point of view, they're just protecting the goods that you're buying. But it seems that recycling hasn't really come to Russia, not in a big way. I think not compared to Western Europe or to a lot of countries out there that really seem to make an effort with using less plastic. Now, if you're Russian, let me know in the comments what you think about the whole recycling situation in Russia, because Russia is one of the last countries in the world to actually produce asbestos, and there's a city in Russia called Asbest because they create and sell asbestos, because there's still a market for asbestos in places like India and lots of African countries where it's not banned. They still order a lot of products made from asbestos, but the rest of the world, well, kind of sees asbestos as perhaps dangerous. Anyway, that was 5 things that I've gotten used to living in Russia. Let me know in the comments of any other things that you've gotten used to living in Russia, or living in a country somewhere else that you thought initially was strange and now it's just normal for you. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one.